Welcome inside the locker room on a Monday morning here on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. We love music, we love life. We love sports as well. It's going to be a great morning to talk about sports. We enter the month of June and the first locker room of the month. Great to have you join us. My name is Ayokunmi. It's going to be a beautiful morning to talk about a lot of things. So many things happened over the weekend. You already know. Welcome once again. Joining me in the locker room to take us into the stories. Walk with us as well. Tega Supreme in the building, even though it's good morning to you, Tega.
Good morning, everybody. I like that he said it's June. So just so you know, June is the month of the Ladies in Sports International Summit. So let's
That's right.
just let's just start from there. So the 12th and the 13th of this month is when we'll have the Ladies in Sports International Summit. I know when I say ladies in sports, everybody will be thinking hats, bonnets, sundresses. And that's not a bad idea. But
Mm-hmm.
the entire idea of naming it the ladies in sports is to remind women that they don't have to lose their femininity to practice sports. Is a new campaign we're trying to bring. Strong is a new beautiful. Because we find out that at 12, a lot of girls start dropping out of sports. And they're like, I don't want to have muscles. Muscles is not
Right.
masculine, it's human. Okay, muscles is human, and when you get older you'll be looking for those muscles. So that was the entire idea behind naming the ladies in sports. You are a lady even though you participate in sports, but this ladies in sports conference is different. It's not just purist sport, and it's not just purist women. It is women's sports, which is sports business, which means you know how business works. No
Oh,
gender.
yes. Mm.
No. So if you're an investor, if you're an enthusiast, um, that's the place to be. And that's not all. We also have some Nollywood people come into, because even we've been watching all the premieres of movies recently. So we're going to have an executive producer at the Ladies in Sports Conference talking about how they build from scratch, get budgeting, get their casting, and then shoot their movies.
All
Because
the
in
all the good
sports,
stuff.
we need that, all the good stuff. So if you're interested in Nollywood, come there. If you're also interested in finance, we have people from the corporate world coming to talk about that too. So it's all encompassing. June 12th and June 13th, especially if you have children. June 12th is for you, because we're talking about how to use sports to get scholarships for quality education. So instead of breaking your head to save all your salary, just put your child in sports. Let them swim, let them run, let them
Mm.
do gymnastics, and
Project
then you
Mbappe.
can, and then you, and then you can use that, to get great scholarships in great schools. So, but LIS conference is where you're going to find out about it. So mark the dates: June 12th, June 13th. Now, speaking about dates, it was a horrible date night, very horrible date night for Simone Inzaghi and his boys. I've never seen that kind of date before. I've heard of bad
Ah,
dates, so
that was a
that
horror date.
one, I've not heard of it before. We'll talk about the five-star PSG performance that happened on Saturday date night. All right. We'll also talk about some sad news coming from within Nigeria. All this and
Mm.
more in the locker room this morning. But before we do any talking, Ayokumi, how can we be a part of the locker room?
All right, you can be part of the locker room and join us as you always do by sending your messages in to us on WhatsApp and on YouTube. Now, the WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981 0809 And on YouTube, you can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Join the live stream, leave your comments in the chat box as per the usual. We'll take them as we get along on the show. All right, Tega, let's begin journey this morning. In the world, in Nigeria, as you mentioned, a sad story coming out of Kano, really. Now, the Director General of the National Sports Commission, that's Bukola Olopade, has expressed sadness over the death of some members of the Kano State contingent returning from the 22nd National Sports Festival. This was a
Very
very sad story. I saw
This was
the
a
pictures
very
and
sad
videos.
story.
Oh,
So
goodness.
yeah, first of all, I would like to say, please, when those kind of things pop up on your timeline, do not repost, do not retweet. Those are gory videos. Even if you put what they say those things, something is advised. You know how they
Viewers
when you
discretion.
viewers discretion is advised before you can't repost that thing. It's just disrespectful to the people that were involved. That's not how, that's not the last view of them you want to show. You can show the damaged boss and then you can show the pictures of the people affected in honor of the people. But please, whenever those kind of posts come on our feed, I beg of everybody, do not even open it, not to talk of repost it. It's not honorable to the people that were involved. All right. But really sad news. These were the contingent of the Kano State at the just concluded festival. I remember when I was bragging on Friday that Delta State came first. That
Right.
sports festival, these were the contingent from that sports festival. So that you know how close it is. They were returning home from the competition. They had gotten into Kano State. This didn't happen outside. They have reached house. I don't know how else to say it.
Hmm.
They've gotten into Kano State. This accident happened in the state. Very sad one. I think we lost about 20 people in that accident. So we just want to extend our condolences to the families, to the friends, to the state. I think the Kano State governor has declared today public holiday just to mourn the people that died, but it is a really, really sad one. And I don't know what to say about this because they had their own bus um and they were traveling home. So you can't say they were left, you can't say this was a logistics issue.
Right.
So I don't know. This is just normal accidents that could happen anywhere, any day. So once again, we are so sorry to the families that have lost loved ones, to all the injured ones. We hope they get well soon. And to the Kano State people and to the Kano State government, we extend our condolences. This is so sad. After having such a great time at the sports festival, to hear this news come out.
Mm. Indeed, it's a very sad one. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. And of course, may their
Amen.
legacy awaken a new era of responsibility, safety, and care in Nigerian sports is very, very important. All right, Tega. I mean, from that, let's move into the world of Formula One, where Judge Russell said Max Verstappen let himself down by appearing to drive deliberately into his Mercedes during the Spanish Grand Prix, where he received
Okay,
a
so remember this.
10-second penalty.
Yeah, you remember this George? I love this George Russell Verstappen pen out there. This their relationship because it's bringing the spice that we need. It's not that one um that Norris and Verstappen are doing bro. So again, on track. On track. After all the dramatics of the race, the McLarens were leading. Piastri up front. Congratulations to winning the race yesterday and then extending his lead in the Drivers' Championship. Norris behind. That third position was still open for anybody. Now, because there was a safety car after Antonelli went off into the gravel, his PCU blew up, so he went into the gravel. Everybody went in to change their tires. But Verstappen had already done his 3 changes, so he had no fast tires left. He only had brand new hard compound tires, and they're not fast. They take time to warm up. They're for longevity, not for speed. That's how they now put the hard tires on him. And Max Verstappen was already angry with his team. That first of all, you put me on these slow tires. Then, before he could blink, Charles Leclerc overtook him. Charles
Okay.
Leclerc that didn't have any stake in the game at all, overtook him to take the third position. And while he was trying to manage that, George Russell now came to overtake him. So he pushed, so he went off the track to overtake George Russell. Now, after his team had reviewed it, his team was now telling him to quietly give George Russell the place back. He was now arguing with his team. So because he was arguing with his team, and he was arguing vehemently, we couldn't even play the radio. It was just beep, 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 beep that was coming out. That's how angry he was. And then because they had to beep out everything whilst he was angry and arguing, he kind of slowed down. So George Russell thought that he was slowing down to give him back the spot. So George Russell came side by side to him to overtake him. If you see the way Verstappen crashed into George Russell, I kid you not, at this point in time, they could have brought handcuff out because it was a criminal charge. The way he just crashed into him,
He's so
And
used to
then he
doing
went,
things like that.
he's just rash behavior. Then he carried on, then eventually swapped places. By that time, he had already crashed into him, and this was like 10 seconds. So instead of him finishing, I think fourth, which is where he ended the race up, he finished in 10th. But yeah, at the end of the race, he wasn't still sorry. He said, "I don't. You can't regret everything in life. If George Russell is crying, I can bring tissues." I was like, "Oh my God, this is an adult man." You don't have to use adult and man together when it comes to
Allegedly an adult man, because I don't know.
allegedly. But I love the drama because the race was just boring for the most part. People were either having tire troubles, or some people had, car issues like Lewis Hamilton, who started the race in fifth and could have gone up higher, but his car was just not moving because he had car trouble. So, um, all in all, that was the most interesting part of the race. Max Verstappen against George Russell, round two.
Hmm. And the beat goes on, most definitely. Interesting times in the world of Formula One. What is going on in the world of tennis? Let's head into the French Open real quick here, where defending champion Carlos Alcaraz overcame a battle in the mind to reach the French Open quarterfinals after an entertaining four-set win over American Ben Shelton.
I've told you this thing with Carlos. Carlos is most likely the person that is going to beat Carlos. It's not usually about the person on the other side of the net. But he said it. He said I had to bring myself back because he got carried away eventually, and then he lost that fourth set, and then he came back to that third set and came back to win in the fourth set. But that is the battle he's always going to be fighting. In fact, that is his most important battle, and I'm glad he said it because he had it in the match before against Juma. He had that in the match against Juma on Friday night. And then Sunday night, you have the same battle. I like the fact that he's beginning to see that he is the biggest and most important opponent he'll ever have. But he was able to come back and he was able to recognize that. And then Samuel Lopez is on the bench. So Samuel Lopez is the kind of person that deals with his mind. I think Juan Carlos Ferraro is just a tactics man, and then he knows Carlos Alcaraz is a great tennis player, and I don't think he does much coaching these days. But whenever you see Samuel Lopez, that's when the basics or the rudimentary part of it is done. So I like the fact that he recognized that. Speaking about people that have to beat themselves to win matches, Iga Swiatek also faced Elena Rybakina, and like I've said before, I have never seen a top-ranked player with that kind of serve. Is the worst serve I've seen. If the way Swiatek serves, that's what you see in amateur tennis.
At this
It's
point in
not
time,
even.
I don't think there's any
It,
hope for her.
it is so bad. It is so bad. I think when she watches it, she will cringe. She shouldn't have that kind of serve at this level. Four-time champion. Uh-uh. Four-time Grand Slam champion. And it gets worse every day, like you say. But she faced Elena Rybakina, a very tough opponent, but her most preferred opponent when it came to that tie break between Elena and Ostapenko. Because she's never won against Ostapenko. But now with this win, she's leading 5-4 in the head-to-head against Rybakina. So Rybakina was obviously her favorite opponent. But she starts the match and she loses that first set by 6-1. So that one game that she held, she played it for like 8 minutes before she
Oh,
was able
wow.
to hold that one serve. So, but she fought her way back. She was one set down, two love down, but she was able to fight her way back from that to eventually win the match. And she's also talking about beating herself. So Carlos Alcaraz and Iga Swiatek should just go to the same class. We'll just put them in the same class. Let them learn how to beat themselves.
Mm. I don't know if they'll learn anything or be distractions to each other in class. Who knows?
You
But
know.
that'll be an interesting one. Let's take our first break of the morning, and when we come back in, we'll be talking about what's going on in America, and of course the Pacers reaching the NBA Finals as the Knicks, unfortunately, fall short.
Hey, Ayokunmi, I think we might dive that story because I mean Super Eagles is there, Super Falcons, and
Well,
then
I thought maybe you just want to touch it. That's why I mentioned.
okay, we'll just mention a one-liner and then we'll go to the football stories because Kilokowa, the championship final will start soon, so we might as well. So, but since I've already mentioned it, we'll just brush over it and go straight to PSG.
Uh, how is Inzaghi still in a job after that horror season?
They are the ones begging him to stay. Very stupid people. Very
Because if I
sentimental
were
rubbish.
Inzaghi, I'll be like, well, I just pack my load, they go.
I don't even blame him. It's around who I blame. No, me, I would have carried Kane to his house now. That night that they were beating Inter like 5-0 is when I would have been flogging Araujo.
I mean, you lost two Champions League finals. You had a season in your hand like this, and you kind of like
A, se- a
just threw
season
it all
of
away.
treble. A season of
And
treble.
up to a particular point, late in the season, there was still talk of Inter treble, and at the end of the day, Inter have nothing. That is just sad.
They are lucky they are Inter, because if you were asked now, they won't have gone to work today.
They won't sack Ateta, Sha. They won't sack him.
If
That's that one.
he shock you. All
All
right.
right. All right, welcome back into the locker room on a Monday morning. Smooth 98.1. You love music, love live station. We love sports here. You know that already. My name is Ayokunmi. Tega Supreme also with me, taking a look at the sporting stories from over the weekend. You also get to join us and let us know your thoughts on the matters on the ground. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 We're also on YouTube streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Please leave your comments in the chat box and I'll take them alongside the WhatsApp messages as we get along. All right, Teg, as I mentioned before, we'll just really quickly just talk about just get your thoughts really. The Pacers, they've reached the NBA Finals for the first time since 2025 years as they beat the New York Knicks 125-108 in Game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes, really brilliant game. They had to find a way to wrap it up. Like I said, it was not never in doubt that they were getting to the final. The question was, are they getting there in game 5 or game 6? They missed out on the opportunity to get into the final in game 5, but game 6, they made sure from start to finish. The most beautiful part of this, winning the Eastern Conference Finals, is that Pascal Siakam, a guy who left Cameroon at 18 through one of these NBA projects, was the one that won the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. It was it, it was beautiful to see, because you always see some European guys win, American guys winning is not out of it, but European guys winning, and you're like, where are all the people that we brought in from Africa? Well, Pascal Siakam was like, here I am.
Right,
Because
doing
it was
Cameroon
an
proud.
MBA program, doing Cameroon proud. And he mentioned it. He's like, I'm from Africa. Everybody was like, hey. No, he didn't say from Africa. He said I'm from Cameroon. That was what
Uh-huh.
was that was what was beautiful
Specific.
about it. Now those people that are born and raised here, they talk different.
True,
Yeah,
true.
because if he were raised in the US, he'd say I'm from Africa. But because he was born here, became an adult here, he's like, I'm from Cameroon.
He
You,
knows how to
you they
differentiate.
identify. Yeah, yeah.
Everything with them is Africa. Everything's Africa. Hmm. Anyways, good one for the Pacers there. All right, so Tega, let's talk about the horror date from Saturday. PSG manager Luis Enrique said that he and the club had achieved their ultimate goal by winning the Champions League after that 5-0 hammering, thumping, beating, beatdown of Inter Milan.
Oh, he's right. That was their ultimate goal. Everybody and their pets, whether your pet was a fish or a cat or a dog, knew that PSG really just wanted to win the UEFA Champions League, and they've done a lot to win it. Over the years, they've had their they gave the keys to the city to Mbappe. It didn't work. They brought in Neymar and Messi. Even if both were on their last legs, it still didn't work. They brought in Ibrahimovic. They brought in Beckham. More PSG have bought players just to try and get to this ultimate goal. At the end of the day, it was homegrown. I mean, Vitinha was one of their best players, and he's not homegrown. Um, Also played for Wolves. Can you imagine? Which tells me that it's not always about the player. Sometimes it's about the right fit when you're talking about team sport. They also brought in Donnarumma, who was grown at AC Milan. And I think he was very particular about not letting Inter Milan score, particularly because he's a Milan boy. And he's from the other side of Milan. He was like, if people score today, make I know why. So it was a completely different performance too, from him. But at the end of the day, they were able to win this trophy with homegrown talent. with a team that knew how to play like a team. And I remember what he said ultimately was that he wants to applaud Ousmane Dembele and give him the Ballon d'Or because the guy was able to defend. Me, I had said it. I told anybody, if you stake your money on Dembele scoring the final, you lose your money. Was I right or was I right? Anyways, because I know my grouse with Dembele. But ultimately, what he praised Dembele for was not any of the things people thought it was, like the back flicks, like the build up to the goals. He praised him for defending. And I think that was a shade to Mbappe because when he came into the club, he was always telling Mbappe that sometimes you may need to fall back. Mbappe was like, "Me, a whole World Cup winner, fall
For
back
here,
where?
for
For
here.
yeah."
Hey.
So I think that was a shade to Mbappe, but more ultimately, it was just recognizing how the team played like a team. Like I said, the most important player that PSG had was Luis Enrique, not anybody on the pitch. Luis Enrique. But for Inter Milan, I think the biggest struggle was that they came out when they played against Barcelona. Remember, they were compact and they were hitting Barcelona on the counter. That was a wise game. And I think they took that decision because they knew how Barcelona liked to dominate possession, how they played through their wings. Do you understand? And so I think they took that decision. But with PSG, they came out to play from the start of the match. What do you
True.
think you were doing? You are experienced players. But experience is just a nice way of saying you are older players. You want to be running with them, Due and Bakola.
How?
How? Do you understand? Yeah, a man in his 30s trying to compete with teenagers. Are you kidding me? So I think that was the mistake. So they wanted to match them play for play. And then by the time they realized that they should be compact, they couldn't be compact because they were 2 goals down. When you're 2 goals down, it's not the time to be compact. It's the time to go out and look for goals. So it
Mm.
exposed them to further damage. So it was the approach to the game for me that was stunning. Why did you think you could match them play for play in the first place? What delusion took over you?
Serious illusion it must have been. What a win for PSG. Finally, they've gotten to the promised land after so many years and after so much money spent. But at the end of the day, it paid off. They can call themselves Champions League winners, finally. But Inter, man, if I were Inzaghi, I'd have packed my bags already. But you know what? I think I've done enough. Let me
Yeah,
keep
truth be
moving
told,
because
because
a
that's
horror
that's two
season.
finals. First of all, from treble to rubble. First of all, that's yes, from treble to rubble first. Then you have to also think of the fact that this is his second final, and you performed worse than you did in your first final.
Mm.
They've
Ah,
they've learned their lesson, but it's too costly to fix it. So
it's too costly to fix it. And I think, the fact that they threw the Serie A away very, very close to the end also would play a factor. But anyways, we'll see what will happen. Inter seems to be begging him to stay. I don't know if he will, but it will be an interesting next season come August. Okay, as we wrap up on the Champions League, let's talk about our very own Super Eagles. They emerged victorious on Saturday evening after defeating Jamaica 5-4 on penalties to clinch the 2025 Unity Cup at the GTEC Community Stadium in Brentford out there in England. Tega, walk us through this one.
yeah, some people are not saying, why are you celebrating? Unity Cup is a friendly cup. A trophy is a trophy. If you think it's easy, tell Ateta to bring one that he won this season. Just one. Ateta has finished him, man. But what it was I like the fact that they tried a few new players. So you got to see that Nigeria has some players in case people got injured. So I didn't expect the result to be great because somebody will say, "Oh, but you drew 2-2 with Jamaica. It had to come down to penalty shootout." It's a friendly. That's what we do. It's not necessarily to win, but it's to try out different things. And so I like the fact that we've seen a new crop of players and we can fit them into different places. So for me, that was the biggest outcome from this one. Of course, my Niger spirit winning a championship that Ghana was involved in is always jollof every day of the week and twice on
I know,
Sunday.
right?
Um,
I know, right?
but it was more important that we saw a new crop of players, and then that you know our coach is someone that also wants to win. I like the way he was pushed, even if it was friendly. he was still pushing the boys that we must win. So I like that too. It was good news seeing that come from the Super Eagles. Now the important thing is to tie all the pieces together. Because if you watch Nigeria, there was still a lot of miscommunication with the players on the pitch. Like they really didn't understand each other, and it showed in the way they played. So the important thing is how we can continue to blend this team so that effectively, if somebody is injured and another person slides in, it won't be too obvious. The good news is that they're also playing another friendly in Russia. They've already arrived. They're arriving in Moscow today. So
Fantastic.
yeah, so the build up towards the African Cup of Nations is good. The more friendlies they play together, the more they get to understand each other, the more the system is understood, and maybe results will follow through.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I always forget the Nations Cup is coming up in December. I'm just not used
Yeah.
to it. So
Ah,
there's
but
that.
Morocco, party every day, Morocco, please. We have to go.
All right, Tega, let's walk back into the Champions League. This one is interesting because PSG striker Ousmane Dembele was named Champions League Player of the Season by UEFA on Sunday after his turnaround season ended with him playing a big role in his side winning the competition for the first time. Desiree Doué was named the Champions League Young Player of the Season as well. Deserved award wins, or do you disagree?
I completely disagree, but I understand it. When you win the final, they tend to throw everything at you. But if you're talking about player of the season in the UEFA Champions League, it has to be the person's performance all through the season. It can't just be about one match. MVP of the final about that match. Team of the season because they came through it all and they won. Yes, it can be about the final. But player of the season in UEFA Champions League has to be the player that performed all through the season. I think that was not a good choice. I think Rafinha should have taken it. Highest goal scorer, highest number of assists. Even if he got knocked out in the semi-final. And especially that it was the semi-final, just the match before this one. It didn't make any sense that he was not player of the season. Season, not this match. Had to have been Rafinha. For me, the young player had to have been Lamine Yamal. There was no question about it. But UEFA gave them consolation prizes. They were named in the team of the season. And Declan Rice made team of the season.
And we know why he did.
2 goals against Real Madrid. 2 goals against that team.
You said it, not me. You said it, not me, Tega.
I was just like, when you think about it ultimately, you're just like, who are the committee of people that are voting are former players, but sometimes we have to question people's parameters. Player of the season, not player of the. Do you understand? It's a player of the season from start to finish. You have to pick the player that performed all through. That's why people were crying when they gave the Ballon d'Or to Rodri, because you wanted to give Vinicius Junior that started playing football in January and ended playing football in March.
Oh, goodness gracious. Even the team of the season, personally, I would even switch Hakimi for Denzel Dumfries. Personally, that's my own
Truth
view.
be told, I will. But because he scored in a final, you see what I'm saying about tainted by the final. All right, on that note, let's hear what people think about the team of the season and the player of the season. All right, let's read through the messages.
A number of them to get through. All right, Solomon in Akoka says, good morning, Tega and Ayo. Happy new month. Same to you. I remember someone quarreled with his club because he did not see the potential of the club winning the Champions League. The character moved to a club that supposedly had the move button of the UCL. Ironically, the rejected club became the champions and the beloved club didn't even qualify for the finals. That tells me, now this character, they jinxed them. You should have mentioned his name, Solomon. Write it in capital letters, in all caps, mention his name. You're talking through the corners, eh?
You understand? You're still talking through the corners.
Anthony says, congrats to PSG. I expected more from Inter Milan, but the match became a Man City versus Enyimba. Enyimba wouldn't have even folded like that. Don't insult Enyimba, Anthony. Calm down. You don't have folded like that.
You. What kind of talk is that?
Adini in Satellite Town says, all those comebacks against Barca just to play the worst UCL final. Araujo. AY Noniru says, how do you go to the Champions League final and lose in such a disgraceful manner? A whopping 5-0 loss, the highest ever deficit in the history of the Champions League finals. The ref didn't even wait for additional time before ending the match at exactly
you understand?
90 minutes.
What was 90 minutes? Ref was like, this is shameful. I shouldn't even be blowing this kind of final. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody go home.
Oh my goodness. ZC Classic says, congrats to PSG. Meanwhile, imagine if we're Arsenal that suffered this heavy defeat in the UCL. Almost that violence will not end in the next 100 centuries. Even we'll still bring the topic on Judgment Day. I don't think Arsenal would have folded like that. I don't think they would have folded like that as well. I mean, yes, I banter Arsenal, but I don't think they would have folded like that. I don't think so. You know, Pius Inegbeda says, Tega, a rich PSG turn to win Champions League. Them turn them to table tennis and World War IV. They needed that trophy very, very badly. Stan says, I predicted the right score, 5-0, but I don't bet because I'm a child of God. Good on you,
Nah
Stan. Good
lie.
on you.
Nah
Keep it that
lie,
way.
Stan. Bring proof. Bring a witness and proof.
uh, Victor in Satellite Town says, good one for Nigeria. That UCL final was not it at all. It was like PSG was playing to lose in the French league. Something
Yeah.
similar, in all honesty. In all honesty. Who else is talking to us here? Let me go to YouTube very quickly and take your thoughts on YouTube. A couple of them to get through. Let me see. Where's the YouTube thing? Okay, it's here. Uche Nawokoye says, PSG team of the season. That is how football should be played. Inter looked like passengers. They were so poor, made the finals look so one-sided. That is how Barca should have played them. Ayon Fedada says Inter should have just allowed Barca to progress into the final.
They don't need
Barcelona
to
would
allow
have been
anybody. If you want to
Barcelona
be in the final, win to be in the final. I
Barcelona
need
would
to
have
stop
been
that thought.
a much more competitive opponent to PSG. By the way, I'm still very surprised that Inzaghi hasn't been fired yet. I'm also surprised. Okay, the robot says, now I wonder who the Ballon d'Or will go to. A PSG player, Salah, who does Tega feel has the best shot? Tega, who do you think is going to win this now?
The Ballon
Ballon
d'Or
d'Or.
player should still go to Barcelona. But because of this final, I'm not saying that there's bias. I'm saying because PSG won the Champions League final, and Ballon d'Or is really a French magazine.
Ah,
You,
make of
I've,
that
I've
what you
just
will.
I've just put two and two together. If you like, get 22. If you like, get 4.
Hmm, that's your consign. All right, Tega, we need to call it a morning. Thank you so much for an
All right.
amazing show
Thank
as
you so
always.
much. Thank you, everybody, for sending in your messages. We'll be back on Wednesday, and this time I'll probably be back in the studio. I'm still recovering from the UEFA Champions League night. It was Inter Milan that debut. It was me that went under the weather. So on that note, I'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll be talking more sports. And again, we'll do a review. Till then, have a great week.
All right, Tega, have a great week and do take care of yourself. And Lagos, thank you for being a part of the locker room. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1 and Smooth Breakfast, 9 o'clock on Lagos Talks. We'll be having a conversation around dementia, something that we definitely need to spotlight. Don't go anywhere.